From San Francisco, California, this is the Rock and Roll Geek Show.
This is the story of my rock and roll butler.
Welcome to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. My name's Michael Butler. Thanks a lot for joining me. I really appreciate it. Today is Sunday, August 13th, 2017, and it is 3 o'clock on the dot p.m. when I'm recording this episode. It is day 14 of the dog days of podcasting, where a bunch of podcast nerds, including myself, attempt to do a show a day for the entire month of August, and we're almost halfway through it. I am extremely tired. Hold on, let me take a sip of this fine. I'm drinking beer right now because if I'm afraid if I drink a beer, I will just pass out mid-sentence. So I'm drinking homemade sweet tea in a 30-ounce Yeti double seal, what do you call it? Vacuum sealed Yeti, a 30-ounce Yeti. My recipe for Southern sweet tea: a small saucepan of water, bring it to an almost boil, put 4 tea bags in it, let it steep for a little while, dump that in a pitcher, add 1/3 of a cup of sugar, fill the rest up with water, stir it up well, let it get cold. Fill your Yeti 30-ounce tumbler up with ice, pour the cold iced tea in it, carry this Yeti cooler or Yeti tumbler around all day, full of iced tea, and it's delicious. It'll get you off soda, and it is not overly sweet. It's perfectly sweet, and it's I love it. Next to beer, I love it. All right, so I am extremely exhausted because I set the alarm for 4:30 this morning. I had a gig last night with the Plunketts, who is Mick Cripps from LA Guns, Billy Rowe on guitar, Mick Cripps on guitar, me on bass, this guy Charlie on drums, fantastic drummer, Mick Cripps, fantastic guitar, world-class musicians all around pretty much in this band. The singer, Patrico, not really a singer, he just does this for fun with the Butlers, but he is the mastermind behind the Plunketts, and this guy named Kent, who is stands off on the side and plays guitar background and sings background. He kind of hides behind the cabinets. He's like the ghost musical director of the band. It was a fun gig. We played a fundraiser for a Pop Warner football team, believe it or not, and they paid us to play this gig. It was food provided. They paid us, and I guess the theme was rock and roll night because it was full of MILFs. I don't know if MILFs is a sexist term nowadays. It probably is, but I don't mean it as a sexist term. It's full of middle-aged, good-looking women and their boyfriends and or husbands. And everybody the theme was rock and roll. So all these people were wearing rock shirts. I'm going to say 95% of the people were wearing Guns N' Roses shirts. I guess they're the default rock and roll band now for the middle-aged generation. So it was a fun gig. Anyway, I set the alarm for 4:30 because I had my kayak and my fishing gear loaded up. I was going to go out to Half Moon Bay and try to catch some salmon because the salmon bite supposedly is red hot. So I had it all loaded up. So I stayed in the East Bay with the rest of the guys. I'm burping up this fine iced tea, and my mind was so focused on fishing. All I could think about was fishing. I tossed and turned all night. Plus, I was not used to where I was sleeping. Woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning. Tried to lay back down and sleep, but by the time it was 4:15, I was just wide awake thinking about fishing. So I got up, I made some coffee, left at about 4:50 or something like that, close to 5 o'clock. Stopped off at McDonald's of all places and got a sausage McMuffin with egg because I had to have some kind of protein before I went out in the water. Got to Half Moon Bay, which was about an hour from the East Bay. Got on the water I was on the water probably by 6:20, and I was at the at Half Moon Bay, you go through this harbor, and then you go through these jetties, and you're at the mouth of the harbor, and then from there you're out in the ocean. And in the ocean, it is full on. So anyway, by the time I got out there, there were probably about, let's say about 15 kayakers already out there. And I couldn't believe they were already out there that soon. So there was another guy that launched where I launched, and he knew that I was going because I posted on this kayak forums. I hope this is not boring, but if it is, I'm sorry. I posted on the kayak forums, hey, I'm going to Half Moon Bay for some salmon. I could use some company because I've never fished for salmon before. And this guy got my post, so he came out there, and I asked him if he had experience fishing salmon, and I told him that I hadn't, and I showed him what I was using, and he said, that's the wrong thing you're using. You need to use this. So the guy was super nice. He let me use some of his tackle, which was consisted of a deep diver, which brings your bait down to the bottom without having to have a sinker. And then I had and then a flasher, which spins around and it like draws attention to the fish or to the bait. And then behind that is a line with a frozen anchovy on it. I brine the anchovies overnight in salt water, and that's what I did. He loaned me his stuff. I went out, fished and fished. I trolled around for salmon. It was so much fun. I was out there and for about, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half and no bites. And then, boom, my line. I just see my line just goes crazy. I grab my line, start reeling like crazy, reeling. And in California, to catch salmon, you have to have a barbless hook, which means so the fish has a fighting chance to get away. So I'm reeling, and boom, the line goes limp. Lost the fucking salmon. I was so bummed out, but it was beautiful out in the water. The water was calm. There were a lot of boats out there. There was a whale. A humpback whale came in front of my kayak, must have been 10 yards in front of my kayak. What a breathtaking sight that was. And also, there were these like thousands and thousands of birds. I filmed it took a video. I'm going to hold my phone up to the microphone. So hear how loud these birds are. Thousands of them. I had never seen that in the ocean before, but it was quite an experience. I would have liked it a lot more had I caught a fish. I always get discouraged when I don't catch a fish, but I tell you, man, if you are stressed out or going through depression, I'm not going through depression, but I'm just some advice. If you are, because I see all these people like Kurt. I don't know, what's the guy's name from Soundgarden and the guy from Linkin Park. Anyway, these guys killed themselves. They were supposedly depressed. You want to get over depression? Go out in the ocean or in a boat or in the water in a lake or in the woods. Spend some time. It eliminates all thoughts of anything negative. When I was out on the kayak today, sure, I could have gotten eaten by a shark. Sure, my kayak could have got knocked over by that humpback whale, which was about, by the way, the humpback whale was probably about, I don't know, maybe 100 feet long, 60 feet long, way bigger than my kayak. I could have got knocked over by that humpback whale. I could have got shit on by those thousands of birds. But I was completely free of stress. No fish, but no stress either, friends. And it was a beautiful Sunday. It would have been more beautiful if I'd have caught a nice salmon. So a lot of people didn't get salmon. It was like the bite slowed down apparently today for some reason. The day that I decided to go out, the bite decided to slow down. Supposedly people been like tearing up the salmon. It's the best fishing season in the Bay Area, supposedly in the last 10 years. I saw a couple of kayakers got a salmon. I saw maybe three guys out there that caught a salmon. The rest of us, I don't think got any, but like I said, it was not productive, but boy, was it a great day. And I am extremely exhausted. I'm not going to make any dinner tonight. I have to estimate about 4 or 5 jobs and send those bids out. But I'm going to go have some Eritrean food tonight, which is South African? I don't know, somewhere over there in another country. You don't eat with forks. You eat with bread. It's sponge bread, and you use the bread to pick up the food. It's very delicious. I will be drinking beer there. I'll be drinking African beer. So in the meantime, I'm going to be drinking iced tea. That's going to do it for me, friends. I'll talk to you tomorrow with what is today? Tomorrow will be day 15 when I'm recording. I'm actually a day ahead, but this is for day 14. And I spun the iTunes wheel, and it came up on Bad Religion, a song called What Can You Do from an album called Suffer. All right, so thank you for listening, friends, for day 14 of the Dog Days of Podcasting. What'd you get on this episode? You got a lesson on how not to be depressed, lesson on how to get rid of your stress. You got to hear thousands of birds. You got to hear a whale sighting story. You got a southern sweet tea recipe. And you got an idiot talking on the microphone in his closet-sized office. All right. Thank you for listening, friends. rockandrollgeek@gmail.com. Area code 706-621-ROCK. If you have anything you want me to talk about on the Rock and Roll Geek Show for the Dog Days of Podcasting, call that number or just record on your phone and send me an email, rockandrollgeek@gmail.com. You can find this show at rockandrollgeek.com. You can find me on the Facebook, R&R Geek. You can find me on the Twitter, R&R Geek. You can find me on the Instagram, Rock and Roll Geek. Don't ask. And thank you, everybody, for donating to the Rock and Roll Geek Show. Please keep the donations coming, because without your donations, this show would die a horrible, putrid, stench-filled, getting shit on by 1,000 birds, then knocked in the water by a 60-foot humpback whale and eaten by a great white shark kind of death. All right. Here's Bad Religion. We'll talk to you tomorrow, friends.
So you waste another day getting older and gray in the head, and you're hearing lots of story about the happy time you have ahead. There are other folks in power, so you kick that gang and follow behind. And although the world rotates itself, the only thing that twists is your mind. You see the world falling apart at the rifts, and surprisingly the leaders can't make any sense of it. You mean nothing to the world, we're all someone else's fool, but oh, what can you do? Yeah, you wasted time and do not if you get stuck in a rock and roll bow. Do you find it more rewarding to compete with more who are they loud? They seem to be in power, so I kick back and follow behind. And I watch them as they fuck up every good thing on this earth with their minds. You see the walls falling apart at the rifts, and surprisingly the leaders can't make any sense of it. You mean nothing to the world, we're all someone else's fool, but oh, what can you do? Joe! Surprisingly, the leaders can't make any sense of it. We mean nothing to the world, merely someone else's fool. But oh, what can you do? I said, oh, what can you do? Go!
It's a rock and roll geek train wreck.